Welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hey y'all, I'm Karista, and thank you so much for tuning in today's episode of Love Always Self. We are super excited to have on a special guest today, Kate Cook. She is here to talk about her life journey and what led her to create her business, Light Within Coaching. Kate is a spiritual self-love coach, energy healer, and her mission is to teach other light workers how to align with their higher self, not just hers, and using spiritual teachings of unconditional self-love as the guide for healing and self-discovery. Kate, hey, thank you so much for
Hi.
joining us and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so special and wonderful. I really appreciate this.
Oh my God.
So yes, go ahead. Did you already have a question, Shara?
I have so many questions. I follow
Lay it on me.
you. I follow you on TikTok. You're absolutely like every time you post something, you're just spot on. And I just feel like, the journey that you've been on that you've shared so far is so similar, including for myself on like how you kind of got there. So for our audience that might not have seen your, TikToks or your social media posts or your site or anything like that before, why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and like how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I try to give you the cliff notes, right? Because
Yeah.
as all of us, our journeys are just twisting and turning. So let's see, I started my spiritual journey when I was 13, so about 20 years ago. And I'd grown up in a pretty chaotic household and I didn't have my own space. So I would just go in the bathroom and open my chakras and meditate. And that was how I really found, peace and stillness. And so throughout, my adolescence, growing up in 20s, my exploration of consciousness expansion and spirituality was really gradual. I'm super blessed because a lot of other star seeds that I talk to now, their awakening was just like ripped open the last couple of years. It's been very jarring. I was very blessed that my progression was very gradual. And in tandem with this, along this whole time, I always knew that my role here was to help people with their health in some capacity. And based on the level of consciousness I had at the time, in undergrad, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I was studying all this biology and chemistry and psychology, just really focused on the physical vessel. Fortunately, I didn't go to medical school. That was not aligned for me. And I ended up pivoting and doing holistic nutrition. And at that time, I was still just very focused on, the physical body, but still always having this very strong foundation of spirituality kind of percolating as I don't want to say in the background because it was always my lifestyle, right? And so as time went on and I started pivoting into health coaching, my higher selves, my guidance started coming in being like, Kate, weave spirituality into your practice. It's important. I'm like, I don't know how to do this, right? And so a couple years ago, I learned about being a Pleiadian starseed, and I had my first contact with one of my higher selves, my Pleiadian higher self. And in this last year, fortunately, as I continued building this relationship, I was then introduced to one, two, three of my other higher selves. So now I've been able to connect with four of my higher selves in various other dimensions. And at this point, they started pivoting me into doing more spiritual life coaching, self-love coaching. And so my main mission here that was revealed to me more and more over time, right? I had been shown that I've been a healer in many other lifetimes, but young Kate could only perceive that as, well, that must mean I must be a doctor, or okay, then I'm a clinical nutritionist. And over time I was like, you know what, I really zoomed out of just this physical 3D reality, and I'm much more connected to energy healing, spiritual healing, emotional and mental healing at this point. So the grander mission that I was shown in the last year was I'd had what I consider to be my like true awakening in 2017, in which I was shown this vision. I was in this 432 hertz sound healing meditation, and my higher self just like put me in this ball of light and pulled me out into the cosmos. And they were just teaching me all these things about the sun and the earth and vibration. And eventually I was taken down to this really small planet, like way deep out in space. And I remember getting off the ship and walking through this like stone temple, and there was all this alien gold script on the walls. And as I ran my hand through it, it just shimmered like a spell on the wall. And I looked down and I'm wearing these robes, and I open up into this bigger room with this half circle table. And there's all these other beings wearing the same robes sitting down at this council table. And the next thing I heard was, you're part of the council, one of the many councils in the universe, that's but that's involved in overseeing the vibrational raising of our universe to back to source, essentially. So made a lot of sense that as we're going through the ascension, I had to come down and serve for that. So my role now is really to hold space for other light workers, starseeds, healers to do their inner work, to do their vibrational upgrades and raising so that we can be out there serving our divine assignments.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
That sums it up.
Like I've got like full body chills, like
Me too.
multiple, like it feels like multiple layers and waves. I love this. And I am just like kind of speechless. But I think it is just so cool because I have a medical background. I've been a nurse for almost 20 years. And
Amazing.
this is something that's really been nagging at me, this loss of spiritual awareness and connection in that space of wellness.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you, how did you know at such a young age to utilize meditation and working on your chakras?
Yeah, so that was, oh man, so blessed. So my childhood best friend, she goes by Crystal Consciousness on TikTok. She's like a very successful psychic medium, and she's always been really tapped in. And her uncle was dating this like hippie woman when we were really young, and she introduced her to meditation, and then she introduced me to meditation. And so we would like sit there and do guided meditations for each other and like, you know, help each other open our chakras, and just started tuning in and tapping into our energy. So I can't 100% take credit for how that plopped into my life, but once I had it, I just knew at a very young age, like this was a really important and valuable practice that I needed to continue nurturing and expanding into.
What a blessing to have that at
Yeah.
such a young age, such
Yeah.
a great tool
Yeah,
to help you through life.
exactly.
So at what point, and sorry, I'm a little jumping all over the place.
Yeah,
It was
you're great.
I'm just super excited.
I did put a whole lot of information out there, so don't worry.
I got questions too.
So-
Don't worry.
So you started off doing health coaching, and how many years did you do that? And what was the catalyst that really allowed you to start integrating more of the spiritual aspect into that health coaching?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I started as a holistic nutritionist, and I was working with a naturopathic doctor, and I was creating these, you know, therapeutic diet plans for people. And over time, you know, I would just give them the diet plan. And just as they told us in grad school, they were like, people aren't actually going to follow this. And so I started really diving into that of why. And I was like, oh, it's not the food that's the problem, it's their relationship to food that's the problem. So that's when I started pulling out and being like, okay, just strictly doing like clinical nutrition isn't actually solving the problem. So I pivoted to health coaching. And as I was exploring health coaching, what I then saw was, oh, it's not their relationship to food that's the problem, it's their relationship to themselves. It's a relationship to themselves. So then I really started diving into my own self-love journey, which of course, you know, as all of us healers are, all of our clients are just a mirror of us. And so all the tools that I was gaining as I was deepening my connection to my higher selves and my spiritual practice then started becoming mirrored in my work. And I started realizing that in order to heal one's relationship to self, it's about becoming an embodiment of unconditional love. It's about coming back into the heart space. And this is how we connect to our higher self. This is how we're able to transcend the limitations of ego consciousness and step into our most expanded version.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Amen.
Yeah, right? Can I get an amen?
Amen.
That is on point. I'm gonna jump in now. So I have this really weird moment just a second ago when you said about seeing the hieroglyphs and that you could run your hands across it. I've actually had a repeating dream since I was a kid of this like cave-like system. And in the cave, it was like a lot of like little fire pits or torches and stuff. And then on the walls were these gold like hieroglyphs. And I still never could understand what it means. And you're the first person I've heard repeat something that I've dreamt like about that specifically. So that's wild.
Fascinating. I actually recently heard about that. There's this like crystal cave system on Sirius B or Sirius A.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if that resonates, I don't know if you know about
That
the
does.
Sirian starseed or not, but
Yeah. Okay. That's wild. That just blew my mind too.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because, you know, a lot of times those of us that practice tapping in People kind of assume that we are tapped in all the time, and that's just kind of
Right.
ruling our day-to-day lives. And that's really just not the case. Like, we still are humans, and we're still
Mhm.
experiencing all the human things. And that also means confusion, because we're here for this experience as well as enlightening others that there are more experiences to have, right? So tell me,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I would love to know, like, what are some of the techniques that you use to tap in, to your guides? Because that's something that is hard
Mhm.
sometimes to explain. And then
It is.
when it
And
happens to
there's
you,
and there's no one right path.
Right.
There's
right,
different ways.
So many different gateways, and it's just
right,
going to be based on, your perception, your conditioning, like what modalities of connection serve you the best at that point in your evolution. So, obviously I've been meditating for about 20 years. So meditation was always my primary form of connection. And what was really interesting, actually, growing up, I always referred to my connection to spirit as my higher self. I
Mhm.
just knew that it was my own consciousness that was informing my guidance. But when I actually made contact with my pleading higher self, it truly was as simple as making myself available in meditation. So a couple times I had done these guided meditations where I was like, okay, I'm creating space to contact you now. I'm here for you to talk to me, but I was freaked out. I didn't know what to expect. So I was like, I have no idea what's about to happen. Are they going to actually physically come to me? What's going to happen? And I'm mostly clairaudient. So anytime I'm channeling, I'm just sort of hearing a stream. So what happened was I literally I got into a deep state of meditation, and I just reached out and said, okay, I'm ready. And my experience was I just felt this wave of like just really high vibrational, like love, calming energy just drop into my crown chakra straight to my heart. And I just felt instantly at peace. And then I just felt this warm presence. And I remember hearing like, hello, like, I'm here. It's like, oh, this isn't bad at all. This is all this is. Like, fabulous. So right now it's primarily meditation. Breath work has also been a very powerful medicine for me as well. Essentially, anytime I can get into a flow state, so using yoga, spending time in nature, getting to a place of neutrality, where I can really take time to just quiet the mind and create any amount of space, just kind of tune the frequency and get all the white noise out of there,
Mhm.
then my higher selves are able to come through.
oh, that's
How
awesome.
are you able to delineate multiple higher selves?
Yeah. So that was going to be I knew we were going to go here next, because I was like, well, I should probably clarify what this experience is like. So it was absolute hell in the beginning of my journey of making connection, because I just did not trust what was coming through. I had all of this like very logic based, material science, empirical
Yes.
part of me that was constantly undermining what I was hearing.
Mhm.
And just thinking like, oh, I could easily be making this up. Like, this is what came through, but I don't know. So now it's two things. Being able to distinguish between which one of my higher selves is the vibration that I connect to
Mm.
feels distinctly different. And also the language is a little bit different. So when it's my Pleiadian higher self, it's like this calm, quiet voice in the back. And my angelic higher self, it's similar, but she just has this like really, I feel full body peace when she's present with me. And my Octurian higher self, they typically talk, I believe Octurians operate within like this hive mind kind of thing. So they'll often use language like, we would like you to do this. We would like you to do that. And my Andromedan higher self, I always get a visual of him that's like this sort of magician-like presence in front of like a space backdrop. And he also just has this more like kind of like dense energy. So I would say it's the way that I feel vibrationally when I make contact with them.
That makes so much sense.
And I love so much that I can speak openly with you guys about this, because
Yes.
a lot of other platforms be like, this lady is straight up crazy.
Nope. Not at all.
Yeah, we're in alignment.
Yeah.
This is totally a safe space for sure.
So many experiences that, and I try to tell people that, even on our platform, because I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I still deal with they're gonna think I'm nuts, like
Sure.
because that's what we were trained to believe after all this time. And it's just finally trying to normalize this, and that it's not as taboo as, or taboo as everyone is made it out to be. This is something we all can do. We can all tap in and learn these types of things. So speaking of like learning, what was probably the one thing that you tried to hold on to when you were learning how to, connect with your higher self? Like, what was that like? Did you use any other modalities outside of meditation, like crystals or things of that nature?
Yeah, I did. So once I realized when I stepped into becoming a spiritual coach and starting my own business, I was like, okay, I have to become the best version of myself and get rid of all of my limitations and all of my emotional baggage and transcend the ego, because all of this is going to show up in my business. It's going to be mirrored right back to me. So if I want to actually reach my full potential and have the level of impact that I'm being guided, that I'm intended to be here for, I really got to figure my ish out. So my full-time job then became raising my vibration. And so I've just become very, very selective of what I share my energy with. So of course, obviously my diet, nutrition background, food as medicine has always been
Yes.
a philosophy that I've really resonated with. So, the diet, the, high vibrational environments, and then of course, all the practices of nourishing the energy as well. So I would say, being able to connect to your higher self, anybody can do it, but it does require you to attune your frequency to be able to be a vibrational match to them. So over time, as I continued raising my vibration, I was able to make contact with my consciousness in higher and higher dimensions. So first it was the Pleiadian higher self that came through, then it was the angelic, then it was the Octarian, then it was the Andromedan. And so it was just this like consistency in showing up and being, learning about my energy more, being very conscious of how my vibration was affected by anything and everything, right? Since everything is energy, we are energy, it all matters. And becoming just, very diligent and specific about making sure that my vibration was nourished and protected at all times, as much as humanly possible, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, you said that you grew up in kind of a tumultuous, borderline abusive, right? Is that what you said? Environment. And you mentioned that you felt like you needed to deal with a lot of that trauma before presenting yourself as a spiritual coach. But are you still dealing with stuff?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. I feel like as I'm sure you both agree with this, like the healing process never ends, right? As we continue to evolve and we expand our consciousness, your higher self will show you more little nuggets of places where ego is hiding, right? As you shine light into these corners, ego no longer has anywhere to hide. But those shadows go back far, right? And so I'm constantly, when I stepped into this container for myself of like, okay, show me everything that's standing in my way from being an embodiment of my higher self. I was hit really hard for all of last year. And I think most of us were, 2021 was really, the theme was just like shedding, releasing, shedding, releasing. And I'm so grateful 2022 is more about, okay, now let's get to a place of feeling good. Let's embody that 5D unity consciousness. But yeah, of course, all of us have really deep hardwired programming, and some of my programming some of it's just really sticky. And it's incredible. Like once you create the awareness of that programming, you start seeing it everywhere. Every interaction that you show up to, every conversation you have with yourself, you're like, oh, there it is. There it is. Send some light. So yes, it's an endless process of shadow work. I feel like balance of shadow and light work.
And how have you used your own journey through healing to guide your clients?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, you can only teach what you know. And because I have this, kind of diverse background in holistic healing modalities, I just have various tools. So any tool that I've used on myself, I'm then able to bring into my work. And I'm constantly looking to expand my tool belt because, all of us respond to things differently. And I want to be able to offer as many different varieties as I can. But yes, it's only ever things that I've used in my own healing.
And do you ever refer people out to other specialties as well?
I haven't had too many of those come up. Oftentimes when people come to me, it's been like, I've been in therapy for a really long time and I still just can't get past this. Or I've tried everything under the sun and there's still something that hasn't clicked. And so, my higher self, my Pleiadian higher self would show me that I have contracts with many different star seeds. And so when people come to me, it's like, you felt familiar. And I just felt like I needed to contact you. I'm like, yeah, well, it's because we probably have a contract and you've tried all these things to get to your frequency to a certain point. And now we need to bring in, our higher selves here up there, have a contract, going to communicate through me. And, do the
I
work.
love that because
Yeah.
when Shyra found you, she actually said, I just feel like we already know her.
Yeah, I did. I
It
was
just feels
like,
so
Yep.
familiar.
I was
I
actually
agree, actually.
wondering.
Yeah, when we started talking.
I was wondering. I was like, do
Yeah.
I know her from somewhere? Like, wait a minute, she looks so
I,
familiar to me.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot on TikTok.
That's
Then you
amazing.
have lots of soul contracts and lots of connections.
Right.
Yep, really do.
So, what kind of clientele do you serve?
Yeah, so right now, I'm just serving the spiritual community almost entirely.
Mhm.
Typically, I work with some men, but mostly women, ranging from like 30s to 50s. I'd say.
Mhm.
That's not bad. Do
Cool.
you like what are some of the things that you would probably say are like your highest amount of teachings at the moment when you're coaching?
Highest amount of teachings. So you mean like the main like spiritual teachings that I work with?
Yeah, like what is like the thing that most people come to you wanting to learn or wanting help with?
Mm, yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question because I've actually noticed that has changed and morphed based on where I'm at in my healing process, essentially. Because it's people that have a resonance with me are going to be going through similar things or that I have just overcome myself. So, but there is always the same common denominator. So what most people come to me for is they're on a spiritual journey, they're wanting to make connect with their higher self, become reach their fullest potential, and are aware that a lot of their programming and conditioning is continuing to keep them in this like lower level of consciousness. Now, of course, that's incredibly nuanced and everyone's programming is very specific to them, but the common themes that I see is unworthiness. That's, I think, a program that has been really implanted in us because it keeps us out of our power. And most of the time it's people not living their authentic truth as well, not living their authenticity. And I didn't even realize how common that is until I started doing this work. But then of course it was so obvious once I realized it, because we're not really taught to check in with ourselves and ask, does this resonate with me? It's like mom said this, society said this, friends said this. I remember specifically one time I had a client, we were just using as a small example. She's like, yeah, I've got like all these black handbags because my sister said every woman needs a black handbag and I don't even use it. It's like, do you see that you took on someone else's truth there?
Interesting. Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah, exactly. And I do have a lot of people come to me that have unprocessed trauma that they've tried many different tools to work through, that's still continuing to trigger them. So it's typically people that are wanting to release their triggers and have a stronger spiritual connection.
And how long do you typically work with a client?
Yeah, so that's definitely kind of evolved as well. Excuse me. I used to do 12 weeks and then I realized, the 12 weeks really allows us to do a lot of the clearing work, but then there's the integration afterwards in which we start stepping into these embodiment practices of self-love. So now I've expanded my container to 6 months.
Nice. Yeah.
It's really is an incredible transformation to be able to hold space for, having people come to me that just are so unwell, in their day-to-day and have such potential to do big things here. Like all of us Lightworker Starseeds, we have these divine assignments, and until we can liberate ourselves from the matrix of our conditioning and our programming, we aren't able to access our true power, and we aren't able to actually serve and help awaken others, help heal others, and raise the vibration, which is what we came here for.
Yes, preach.
I know, right?
There's another amen.
So,
what else continues to motivate you in your coaching?
That's a beautiful question. You think about that. It's those light bulb moments. It's those moments when I'm able to help, when I'm able to cast light on something that's the core root of why all of these, the top expression of how our conditioning programming shows up. People will be like, oh, I don't like the way I feel in these moments, or, I'm blaming or whatever in these situations. And then when we break it down, we peel back layers, and we can get to the core thorn of where all this programming came from, and they can see it. You just see like rapid change in people. This is how we are able to collapse timelines. This is how we're able to quantum leap, is by extracting this these core wounds and pouring light and love back into it. And so when I see these moments of release for people, it's just nothing is more beautiful than that, you know. And I reflect all the time of how grateful I am that this was my divine assignment, you know, is to hold space for people's transformation. Like, what an incredible mission.
Just so cool. Oh, yes. I can just feel the heart energy just like expanding.
Absolutely. As soon as I've just had all of these images go through my mind, and every time I'm there, it's just such expansion.
It kind of reminds me of Brian Weiss's book, The Many Lives, Many Masters, and just like the past life regressions and just seeing the root point of a trauma, even if it was in a past life, and immediately experiencing some relief of a complaint or symptom. So that is just beautiful.
It's incredible, you know, because your vibration just instantly shifts. You know, it's like I like to use this analogy of, you know, we came here as these pristine divine beings. You can think of yourself as a goddess or a god, but now you have all these shackles, and all the shackles is all your programming and conditioning. Now we have many different tools that act as keys, many different healing modalities, but sometimes the shackles have multiple locks. Sometimes you have to try many keys to undo one, or it's the wrong key. But eventually, as you continue to show up for yourself, and as you learn how to not withhold love from yourself and lead a more heart-centered life, you can blast through all these shackles and really step into your divine power.
That is incredible imagery.
Right?
Yes.
One of the best.
Yeah, that was given
I've
to me a
heard.
few weeks ago, and I was like, gotta share that one. Thank you. Yeah, can't take credit for that. That one came through.
You know, you said something.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was like, "What?"
You first. Go ahead.
You said something a minute. You said something a minute ago that really did that hit home a little bit, but it was in relation to when I asked the question. You know, what are you seeing most often in those that are coming to you for help and guidance right now? And you mentioned the what you're working on within typically does mirror, you know, externally, and so you start to attract those things coming in. And I just wanted to highlight that again because we talk about, you know, the powers to be of manifestation and everything else, and how you everything that you're coming across is a mirror reflection of yourself. And by healing others, you also heal within. And so sharing that healing ability and the work that you're doing, it's just amazing, and it's just something to be so like proud, you know, even though pride might be a little linked to ego, but
but yeah, because you know, half the time we are scared because it takes vulnerability to talk about these things. So it's just another good example of sharing is caring.
Absolutely. And again, and thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate that. And it's an act of self-love at the end of the day. You know, I actually had this really incredible download come through related to this last month, where I realized, so when we are triggered, what that is that's an old version of yourself, current life, past life, that's stuck in time, and they're still experiencing that trauma. And when you get triggered, they're sending a wave of a help beacon, essentially, to get to your now vessel and be like, hey, I still need you. I still need something from you. And so then the shadow work process is turning around, turning back on that timeline, and taking that part of yourself back in and reintegrating them back into wholeness. And so what I realized for myself is, through my content and through serving others, I am actually also healing myself at the same time.
Yes. And, you know, we're all a part of each other and always connected. So healing and loving other people is also healing and loving ourselves, and vice versa. 100%. So if somebody ends up signing up for the coaching, what can they expect?
Yeah, so my container, like I said, it's 6 months. First 4 months, we're doing one-on-one every week. So I always let people know, when you step into a container with me, you're telling the universe, okay, I am ready to see everything that's keeping me at my current level, that's preventing me from stepping into the next expansion of myself. So oftentimes I have people, you know, they'll come to me in a session and be like, I just have all of these wild childhood memories come up that I had not thought about in many years that were repressed. I'm like, wonderful, we're ready to look at this. So it's direct mentorship, you know, one-on-one for an hour a week. Of course, there's exercises and assignments in between. And then the last couple months, we stagger every 2 weeks, and that's just for the embodiment, the integration. As I've seen, you know, when we're stepping into this new vibration, we're going to be given opportunities to practice that vibration. And for a lot of people, that's the part when we can start kind of regressing into old patterns. So I find having the container there to still be the soundboard, to be like, nope, keep going. Let's remember the teaching, integrate the teaching, anchor it in. and then allow you to really ground into that new vibration.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And my higher selves have also really been hammering into me that energy healing is a really big part of my mission that my human was a little like not on board with for a while. So I started training with a master level Akashic energy healer. And so I'm now adding that into my practice as well. And so my guides have been asking me to do this because it allows the integration to and the transmutation to happen in between sessions. So that's been a really nice additional tool to be able to work in.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really being called to go back into Reiki and
Amazing.
get my next level training. Yeah.
Wonderful. Very excited for you.
And if you ever get to meet her in person, she gives the best hugs on the planet. Like,
I believe it.
I'm not
I believe it.
kidding. I mean, it's just like, oh, family hug, you know, like a great hug, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That like soul quenching hug.
Yes. You're like,
And
okay,
even
thanks.
more so now since we haven't been able to do so in the last 2 years.
Right. Absolutely.
I call it the, I
Somewhere.
didn't know I needed that hug.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I'm totally gonna use that. I didn't know I needed that. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So any other questions, Shyra?
You know, yeah, I mean, we're doing great on time. So is there anything that you would like to share with our audience that you feel is really needed to be heard right now?
That's a wonderful question. Let's see.
Yeah. Take your time.
Yeah, let me just check in for a
tough
quick
one.
moment. Thank you. Yeah, right. I'm like so many things.
I know.
Let's see. So what was coming through, what I was hearing was keep going. You know, I think we're at perhaps the densest part of our collective evolution right now. And I know a lot of people, we're just getting hit with all of these energy updates, and we're transmuting this energy in our vessels, and it can be a lot. You know, it can be a lot emotionally, spiritually, physically. I'm sure both of you have experienced symptoms from this, myself included. And to just know that there are so many other people going through this experience, and that you chose to be here. You chose to be here at a very special and essential time on our planet. So just knowing that things are going to get easier, but of course, we're still going kind of through the thick of it. But that it is so important that you are here. It is so important that you are here. So doing the things that you need to do to nourish yourself and stay as grounded as you can throughout this experience is going to create the most relief as we're doing these huge energy updates. So the main message that came through was, just keep going. We are going to get on the other side of this sooner rather than later.
Oh, that's
I love
so
that.
beautiful. Well done.
And great reminder right now, for sure. It
Yeah.
does feel heavy.
It feels heavy, and there's so many distractions, so I think it's so important for us to just really be diligent about where we're putting our focus and being, I've really been sitting with some of Abraham Hicks' teachings more lately, just as the reminders, right? Because there are so many distractions and there are so many ways in which ego tries to shift our focus into limitation and lack. But because we are all such powerful creators, unfortunately, that just creates more limitation and lack in our life. So just being very, very diligent and intentional with where you want to put your awareness and what you want to share your energy with.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Intention.
So if somebody wants to reach out to you and connect with you, like how would they do that?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So I'm pretty active on social channels, TikTok and Instagram. I go by Light Within Coaching. My DMs are always open. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me right now.
Perfect. And we'll definitely link all that information below.
And you said it's TikTok and Instagram, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And her link tree is on Instagram and TikTok.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, it is. And then I was wondering, just for the two of you ladies, what inspired you to start this podcast?
Oh, I think the whole sharing is caring thing. I think, Shyra and I, we were brought this information and we started discussing like, oh, this can't just be it right here. There's so much more. Where is the love? Oh, it's within us. We just have to foster it and help grow it and, feed that garden within us. And the importance of sharing that with everybody else, because we recognize that we are all a collective and that we are all one. And so when we love each other, we are loving ourselves and vice versa. So
Absolutely.
the holistic healing aspect.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just really want to thank you for creating this platform to have these open discussions, because, us starseeds are all spread out and lots of us are out there going at it alone. And it can just be so cathartic for people to be able to walk into these conversations and be like, wow, these thoughts that I'm thinking, other people are experiencing these things, other people are feeling these things and coming to the same levels of awarenesses. So thank you for creating space for those conversations. So important.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, it was stepping out of a fear-based thought process. And, I tested that out with, when I experienced cancer, and I announced that on a very public platform on what I went through and how to get through it. And it was like, if I can do that, I can share these other experiences that Carrie and I are learning, because it's so important that we are taking care of ourselves in order for that to reflect with everyone else, because every light that we shine brighter allows others to shine theirs. And we need a lot more of that light on this planet right now. So,
yeah. And just the limitations in Western medicine, right? Having been a part of the healthcare field for 20 years, like there is that area that is extremely lacking. And, I've been able to start incorporating that in my care with patients. So I want to expand that outward.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for doing that, because of course, 100% agree. It's that's what became really clear to me through my journey of becoming a healer was, just working on the physical vessel is really short-sighted, because essentially it's like the problem starts on the spiritual and filters its way down through our emotional body, through our mental body. And the last point is typically a physical vessel, in which your higher self's like, you have to do your inner work. There is no hiding from this, but the typical Western medicine approach is simply just, take the pill, do the thing, move on with your life. Right. And it's, putting a Band-Aid on the problem, as we know.
Fix the machine rather than tending to the garden.
Yes.
Yes.
Very nicely said.
I tell you what,
there's a time and a place for each, but it's good to integrate them, right?
If we want to heal, it's about integrating them.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Anything else? No,
I think
okay. So I've got one more question for you. So this is a question that we like to ask all of our guests. So if you need to take a moment to think about this, totally understandable. This is a slow burning question. So what does self-love mean to you?
Beautiful question. I bet I have a good answer as a self-love coach.
No pressure.
Oh, what is self-love to me? Self-love is being able to get to a point of unconditional, unapologetic, radical self-acceptance, where you can look at the good, bad, and the ugly and keep your heart open to all of it.
Oh,
that's it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for asking.
Kate, this has been amazing. And I'm just so grateful that Shyra found you and that we were able to connect and bring you on today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, wonderful.
It has been absolutely.
And I really appreciate, that opportunity. Yes.
Absolutely.
So wonderful to meet you both.
This has been an incredible conversation. Yeah.
We hope to have you on again. That was a delay.
Yes, I would love that. Yeah, I would absolutely love that. Definitely. Let's keep in touch.
At some point, I would love to share a hug with you too. So
we'll do
that
it virtually.
Will be a blessing.
Sending so much love. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Kate, thank you so much for being here today. Absolutely. This was an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing your connection with you deepening with yourself and your higher selves, and just being open to sharing all this light and love with everybody.
Absolutely. And likewise to both of you. Thank you for
you.
doing this work. Thank you for continuing to show up for yourself and for others.
All right, everybody. This has been an awesome episode. We just want to remind you, don't forget to love first
Love last.
and love always.
Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shyra.
And until next time, remember to love first,
Love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.